I love this movie. This is like my top 3 favorite movie of this year. I have
This
some
year
quibbles.
sucks, by the way. We've had
Well,
that discussion.
low competition to be sure. But I am about to give you the floor, but just tell me how much you love this movie, Cole. That's why you're here.
I just have to gush like you do about this movie. I thought that it was a fun script. I laughed at the jokes. There wasn't. I can't recall a joke that fell flat for me.
Mm-hmm.
The references weren't super heavy. Like they didn't. It wasn't constantly going, "Hey, remember this thing you really liked back when we made it the first time?"
Yeah.
Um, the characters
Message.
were the characters were enjoyable. And I really liked seeing another new take on Optimus Prime and Megatron's growing division, coming from the same spot and having similar upbringings, but going to different angles with their
So you were okay with
solution for Cybertron.
You were okay with this interpretation of their coming apart.
Yes, I was. I actually really thought it was a good take on it.
That's good. Okay. Was there anything you didn't like about the movie or that didn't work for you, or any quibbles you have, any craft issues?
Well, I was talking with my girlfriend when we finished up the movie, when we were walking out of the theater, and we both came to the same conclusion that our one problem is the division between Optimus and Megatron just sort of starts. Like there's not an inciting moment of, oh, we are fighting about this. It's just like it feels a little forced at the beginning and then grows into it. But
Yeah.
There's a conversation that they have where the division starts, and it just feels like, oh, this is the point where they start falling apart. It doesn't feel as organic as it could.
Okay. I'm going to round back to that in a moment because I definitely have some thoughts. But Jason, I know you're itching to get in here. So what'd you think of the movie?
I love the movie. I thought it was a great prequel and starting point for the Transformers franchise to show the growth of both Optimus and Megatron. Just like Cole said, I think that the division could have been kind of done a little bit better. It was like you had this one minor altercation, and then it kind of like blew up exponentially real quick, and then it just kind of fizzles when he steps aside and says you're banished, and it was like, okay, I kicked your ass, and now go away. I don't think that it was like it kind of made um, Megatron look a little bit weaker than what we're typically used to seeing him.
Yeah.
Like he got, it was like he just gave up after he seen that he couldn't get the upper hand, so he just kind of gave up and took the banishment. There wasn't kind of like the deceitful, um, scheming Megatron that we're used to seeing, like the underhandedness or anything. We just kind of see okay, you got the best of me. I'm just going to tell and leave. I think that was kind of one of my major downfalls with the movie.
Yeah.
But I think that was, like you said, Mark, is whether you and Robert said they're kind of angling toward the sequel, more or less, to kind of where we actually get to see the Megatron we're used to. And I think that they kind of was limited with their runtime on this, because this was, to me, it's kind of felt like a pretty tight runtime. I don't think it was like had a lot of fat to trim, but yeah, I mean, so far this has probably been one of my favorite movies I've seen in the theater this year, along with what you said, Mark.
So I absolutely love this. I was beaming. I was gushing. I laughed hard at the GoBot joke. These two GoBots.
Yeah.
Again, I embarrassed the fuck out of my daughter. She was like, "Oh my god, shut up." You don't have the touch or the power. I laughed at. I have to talk about the fact that I did in fact find the humorous. I do have to talk about the fact that they did themselves no fucking favors with this marketing. Feel free to jump in at any time, Cole.
Somebody mentioned this. I saw it on Twitter. Somebody's had like the poster for the Dungeons and Dragons movie alongside this one and went, the starter pack for you're actually a pretty good movie, but you get marketed like crap.
Yeah. This. Go ahead, Cole. I don't know if you wanted to jump
Oh no,
in there.
I was just gonna parrot that and say, I don't recall seeing much marketing for this at all. I mean, there was, I knew
One
it was coming
trailer?
out because I knew it was coming out because I'm a huge Transformers fan. But like you said, there was one trailer. There was no hype. There was no build up. It just sort of came out, and everyone was surprised that it was good.
There were trailers before movies that I saw over the, when trailers get released. So months ago, and I see everything, so I saw the trailers. I think I was telling Robert in the DAZN app, which is a sports app, a subscription app where you can watch a lot of boxing, darts, and some other stuff, rugby. In the frame where you can see what's playing, there was the picture of Transformers 1. That's it, though. And here's the thing. Robert talked about this a few podcasts back about the art of cutting a trailer. Your trailer has to reflect the movie, or you're not doing it a service at all. In fact, you're really giving it a disservice. They marketed this movie. It's one of the reasons why, like, it's so funny. If we didn't have a podcast and if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't see a lot of movies that we talk about. But between those two things, I end up seeing everything. And this was not a movie I would have seen based on the trailer. This seemed really juvenile. Yeah. This seemed like so. Right before this was a movie for Dogman. I didn't know what the fuck a Dogman was. My son had to quick give me like. So let me explain. Yeah.
Same guy that did Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, it looked like that. It looked like what's the other one? Captain Underpants. That style of kiddie humor. It's fine. I'm all for make stuff for kids. Kids deserve good entertainment too, and that stuff is popular with kids. So no qualm, no foul. However, it's also not. I'm almost 50. I don't want to watch a lot of that stuff. Let the kids watch it. And so, like, I'm watching the trailer for Transformers 1. I'm thinking about a lot of the other juvenile, strictly for kids stuff I see out there, and I'm like, I am gonna hate this movie. This seems kiddie. This seems dumb. This seems low-hanging fruit. I'm only doing this for the podcast because my kids want to go see it. And had I not seen it, I'd have been robbed of what I think is one of the best movies of this year in terms of how tight the script is, and and how up until like the very end, which I'll talk about in a minute, I think it nails every single beat. The idea that Sentinel Prime was sort of a god king, and you have and what are they calling Megatron in this thing? D16.
DSCK 864.
Every time they said D16, I wanted to throw dice. But roll for initiative. Anyway,
Yahtzee.
D16 was very much the devout follower. It was like if I submit and I follow the rules, then I will be rewarded in heaven. And then he finds out that the God King lied, that everything he knows everything he has known is a lie. His entire faith gets turned upside down, and he lashes out violently. That all tracked for me, And so his conflict with Optimus Prime, Orion Pax, made sense because Orion's like, at no point does any of this mean we should commit murder. I understand, everything you believed in has been turned on its head. I get all that, but we should always do the right thing. And
Spike Lee.
Well, yes, that's Spike Lee would say. I think that's why I didn't have a problem with the way. Like, I get what Jason and Cole are saying about. Some seemed a little forced. I guess I took it from the standpoint of view of they had laid enough track with the way human beings actually act, where you have somebody whose entire belief system is blown to pieces. okay, 49% of those people are going to be able to keep their shit together, and 51% are joining a terrorist group. And and then you have somebody who will come from the school of Job, where no matter what you do to them, no matter what you take away, they will still remain faithful to the tenets of a good life. Don't hurt people, be decent. And those two forces are in conflict. I think the movie did as good a job as you're going to do in a kids movie about toy robots. That I think they got all that out there, and so that's not where I had a problem with this movie. Everything up to the third act I was good with. The problem is they wrote themselves into a corner. They introduce the quintessons, and then they do nothing with them, which is a problem. They wrote themselves into a conflict, a violent conflict, an eruption between Megatron and Optimus Prime. And let me tell you, like, we're talking maybe the last 4 or 5 minutes of this movie is where, to me, it kind of all came apart. Because everything leading to Megatron holding Optimus Prime, who's he's just blown a hole into, over the cliff, and him go, and his eyes turn red, and he goes, "I'm done saving you." Yep, that tracked for me. That was perfect. I have given and I've given and I've given, and it's never enough, and you keep taking, and this is his perspective, which I was there for. And it was like, I want to be my own person. I need to excise a demon or two. I am done with you. And he lets him go. That was perfect. And then they gotta give him the Matrix. They gotta do the magic. They gotta make the moisture, and up comes Optimus Prime. And now here comes the punchy part. And I'm not gonna lie, this is where the movie loses me. Watching Optimus Prime and Megatron fight for the 80 bazillionth time, I'm like, alrighty, let's get, like, there was some fun references in there, because I had talked to my son about the cartoon, and everything, where one of them's got a hatchet and the other one's got a sword or some shit, laser weapons. And I remember playing that as a kid, and the girl made fun of me for it. Now I'm, divorced. It doesn't matter. So it's a whole thing. My point is, like, they reference those things in the cartoon, and I went, there it is. So my son and I were elbowing each other. But you're right, guys. They have the fight, and then it's like Optimus Prime, goes 12 rounds, and the decision goes to Optimus Prime, and he was like, well, we're done here. Go, you're banished. And Megatron goes, so I am. All right, boys, let's take our shit and go home. Like, what? That's a problem with the writing of this. Is they got to the end of the movie and went, we don't know how to resolve this. We can't kill Megatron. We need, he lives. That's the problem. That's the problem with the prequel. And then we can't kill Megatron. So they just have to send him home. And a lot of movies do this. This isn't the only offender. But it's just like, well, we don't know how to end this thing, so we'll just send the villain home. And it's like, the villain wouldn't just go home. Megatron would have kept fighting.
Okay, there's two ways that this needed to be shifted.
Yeah.
For this ending to work.
Mm-hmm.
One, Megatron needs to be much more badly hurt than he is in the course of this fight.
He needed to be rescued.
Yes. But, well, you almost need to reverse the position from where they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Where, instead of Megatron holding Optimus over the pit, it's Optimus holding Megatron. Then you get that flashback to their first meeting. Mm-hmm. There's a wonderful line in the show Justified that comes up repeatedly to describe the relationship between the main character and the main antagonist. And because anytime the main character is asked, well, why don't you just kill Walton Goggins? Because frequently he has the opportunity to do so, and he never does. And his response is always, we dug coal together.
Right.
And that's like the last line of the series, even before they did like the continuation a few years ago, was he finally gets him in jail, and they have that conversation. Like, I keep wondering, why I didn't kill you. And I keep coming back to, we dug coal together, because they did that for a long time. And that all that crap formed a really unique bond between them, even though they're on opposite ends of, all of this stuff.
It goes to one of those things that binds men together.
Yeah.
We work shoulder to shoulder, side by side. We make bonds as men, and those bonds stand the test of time. All things considered.
So, but you need to then have that moment where Optimus is now put in the position where I can kill you, or I can not even kill you, I can let you die. But what we had was so important. We had each other's backs. You do that scene, and then you maybe do a really brief montage of them dealing with like mining crap and accidents, and how many times they saved each other. And then he just like tosses this battered and broken version of Megatron aside and says, "Get out. And if I ever see you again, I am killing you."
Mm-hmm.
But
honestly, I would have had it where my way of doing it would have been one of two ways. One, something happens, something gives way, they are forcibly separated, and there's no way of getting to each other. And at that point,
the tower collapses.
Yeah, something like yes. That's two.
I didn't want to make that joke because I don't want it to be a joke, but they're fighting on the top of a tower. Like that is the natural.
That's why I'm laughing and I'm agreeing with you because yeah, kinda. The tower collapses and they are separated and they can't get to each other, and it's like, all right, this is hopeless. And at that point, they're dragging Megatron away. Like, I'm gonna kill him. It's like, you're gonna die. Is what you're gonna do. Let's go.
Let me at him, sir. You have no legs.
Yeah. I would have done that way, or the other way would doing it just to kind of create that bond would have been he's on his last legs, blood from every orifice, and his Megatron's like, I will not submit, and at that point Starscream just grabs him, says, let's go. Like,
yeah, that's what I would have done, is like maybe have like Optimus have him like beating down and have him like mortally wounded,
Mhm.
and have that flashback, but in that moment, as like Optimus is trying to decide, like is like wrestling with the decision, have like Starscream like swoop in and just grab Megatron and just leave with him.
Or if you're
that way
not Starscream, then have it be Soundwave and Laserbeak. Laserbeak grabs him, and
have somebody just kind of intervene.
Yeah.
And where you don't have like that finality of it, and you have that they're going to have to finish this. They're going to continue this.
So to go back to the actual movie, so the ending's weak. Everything about the movie is great up until the end, and that's where it's just like they're kind of speed running this ending, where it's like, wait, we built so well up to this one point, and then it's like fast drop and it's over, and it's like, ugh, this is a little unsatisfying. The other problem I have with this is they introduced the Quintessons. The Quintessons didn't go anywhere. They're still in the atmosphere. They're still chilling out. Like, all right, waiting on some Energon here. When's the next batch coming? And then at the end of like Megatron, Optimus Prime does the thing from the Michael Bay movies. It's like, and whenever there is trouble, Optimus Prime will be there. And it's like, okay, they're still there. It's always line about like, and we're telling the Quintessons, go home, and if you come back, you'll deal with us. And the Quintessons have to be, we've been dealing with you this whole time and beating your ass. What
there were 8 about? Like, they have to look at Optimus Prime and go like, there were 8 of you and we still won.
Yeah, it was
like
I looked at my kids going, they're just gonna leave the Quintessons up there? Like I wanted a shot of the Quintessons all staring at each other going, should we just kill them? Like, what are we doing here?
I think that the reason the Quintessons don't just kill them is because they find them adorable. It's kind of like how elephants look at people and they're like, oh, pets. The Quintessons just like, oh, look, they think they're people.
Wait, I just want to, and I hate to do this because I hate this about other people, but I'm going to be that guy that I hate right now. The Quintessons are essentially Sauron, and the Sharkticons are the orcs. They have them by the legion. At any time, they could have overwhelmed that planet.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, I hate myself. At any time, they could have overwhelmed that planet, and that would be the end of the Transformers. They don't, because they need them for something, but none of that gets addressed in the movie, which would be fine, except that you introduced it. You showed the Sharkticons. You kind of showed there's a lot of them, and then you don't address it again in any kind of way. And that, look, ladies and gentlemen, we're a film study podcast, and that's bad writing. It just is. Doesn't mean the whole movie is bad. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. Calm down. It does mean there are some holes in this script that needed addressing. It probably needed another pass, and I honestly think
there's a way
they just kind of sat with the script and went, "It's fine, kids are going to watch this," and the 40-year-old men obsessing about Transformers don't matter. Just go.
Look, there's a quick way to fix that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's shocking because it's very easy.
When you're done, just go into your craft review.
Sure.
Well, I have a way to fix it as well if Robert doesn't touch on it.
Okay. Well, mine is you get the big space shot and you see the fleet leaving. Like they've stopped here to refuel and they're moving on. And instead of having there be like, it's implied there's a persistent presence here. And that's a problem because it's a persistent presence. If this is like we show up every 6 months and we refuel and we collect this stuff, then this happens and okay, Optimus's big speech at the end needs to be, we've got 6 months to prepare for when they come back.
Right, which would have made sense, and then I wouldn't be yelling about it.
But again, but the point is, that's an easy fix to the problem you've raised, and for some reason we ignored it.
Because again, I don't think they cared, and they didn't think anyone who mattered cared. Go ahead, Jason.
Or, better yet, hear me out on this. Show the ship. And when you pan away from the ship, you see Megatron standing on the ship as if he overthrew the ship with the Decepticons and has basically reversed the roles and has enslaved them as part of working under the Decepticons, and have that as like after he gets banished, one that solves the whole Megatron tucks his tail and leaves, because it looks as if, okay, he's just going to go. He knows the power that they hold. He goes, overthrows them, and has just like a small after credit scene that edit sets up as the Decepticons being the formidable force that they are, that we have grown to know and love.
Yeah. If the final shot is a familiar shot of Megatron's spaceship that he goes to Earth in, that is now implied he stole from the Quintessons, and the last thing you see is Megatron's foot on a dead Quintesson's head. Okay.
Yeah. And that you just have that. You solve a lot. You tie up a lot of loose ends just doing that shot as a post credit scene.
All right, Robert. So I threw in the chat, this is like one of my favorite movies of the year, and you shot back, ugh, I'm gonna be alone on an island naked before God, hating this movie. So, are you gonna ruin everyone's fun, or are you with us?
I don't know. I didn't love it. Let me just start there. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Okay.
Because there is so much humor in this, I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, but the humor has to land for you, and very little of this humor landed for me personally. And I'm big enough to say that that's not an objective problem. That's a, how did I enjoy it problem, right. And fair enough. Other people enjoyed the humor. Wasn't for me. I can live with that.
Here's where I'll agree with you. Everything with Bumblebee was grating.
Yeah, that was... It did not feel like Bumblebee. It felt like, oh, we've got Keegan-Michael Key. Well, we'll just do him.
Yeah. It very much felt like, hey, this scene needs to be funny. Kids are in the audience. Do something funny. Be funny, clown.
And he's willing to do that.
Yeah.
So that I found a little bit grating. Alita's a little bit too on the grating.
Sorry, I got to punch in because I forgot to bring this up. I actually made a point of saying to Lily, that's how you write a girl boss. She was perfect. But I want to hear your argument.
She only works in that role because she is presented as grating. Like, in world, people don't like her.
Yeah, that's how you... Look, I'm going to say something to the people out there who think, we need more girl bosses. You can write them. Understand they're not well liked. And if you
Yeah.
If you put that in your movie or your television show, that these alpha women, these these grating, bitchy girl boss alpha women are also exhausting and impossible. You can do that, but the world has to react accordingly, not treat them like Snow White, and we're all just birds and squirrels and shit landing on her shoulders. You're absolutely right. The reason why Alita 1 works in this is because she's driving everybody else nuts. And her speech to Optimus Prime is spot on. She's like, I'm better than you in every way. All right. So you've displayed that. You've shown that. But I'm not a leader. You are. Like, I can do all the soldier stuff. I can do all the badass stuff. But when it comes to actually inspiring people to do the impossible, I got nothing, pal. You're it. And so I will follow you and continue to be me. That's how you write a girl boss, and it's a lost art because we think girl bosses should all be like Ray Palpatine. Go.
Well, they are all like Ray Palpatine. The problem is people don't understand why people don't like Ray Palpatine, but
Keep going.